In this short video, I'm going to discuss the statement which was claimed at Derek Bentley's trial to have been dictated by him to police officers. By the end of this video, you should have learned about some of the things forensic linguists will look at in a suspect's police statement to test whether it is likely to be the genuine, original product of the statement maker. First, some background. On the 2nd of November 1952, Derek Bentley and a friend of his broke into a sweet factory in Croydon in South London, England. Derek Bentley was 19 years of age and Christopher Craig was 16. It is important to bear those ages in mind. In law, Christopher Craig was still a child, while Derek Bentley, being over 18, was classed as an adult. Christopher Craig was armed with a revolver, and it is said that Derek Bentley had some kind of weapon on him, perhaps a knuckle duster or something similar. At all times, Derek Bentley denied that he knew that Christopher Craig had a gun with him, and he denied that he had taken a weapon with him for any purpose at all. Shortly after breaking into the factory that night, the pair climbed up a drainpipe to the flat roof above and were spotted by a neighbour who called the police. When the police arrived, they also climbed up to the roof of the building, and one of them grabbed Derek Bentley and arrested him. Shortly after that, another policeman appeared on the roof through a doorway, and Craig shot him in the face and killed him. After a further skirmish in which Christopher Craig jumped off the roof and injured himself, the two were arrested. Derek Bentley was taken to Croydon police station in South London and interviewed there by officers. We do not know exactly what happened in the interview room because in those days police interviews were not tape recorded. However, a statement was produced and police officers claimed that Derek Bentley had dictated it to them. Derek Bentley denied that the words were all his. He said that he had been asked questions and that some of the things in the statement had not been said by him. At trial, the jury found that Derek Bentley and Christopher Craig were engaged in what lawyers call a joint enterprise, and that even though Derek Bentley had not fired the weapon and was under arrest at the time that the weapon was fired, he was just as guilty as Christopher Craig. Craig was underage, but Derek Bentley, being over 18 years of age, was old enough to face the ultimate penalty. He was hanged at Wandsworth Prison in London on the 28th of January 1953 after his appeals were denied. Having given you some background, let us now go on to consider the linguistic facts of the statement. How was it produced? Did Derek Bentley dictate it, or did officers ask questions and get answers? If the latter, did they change any of the answers, or did they remove any of the material of the statement? Did they add anything to the statement that Derek Bentley himself had not said? Those are the questions regarding the method of construction of the statement and its origins, its provenance. A second set of questions arises. Did police officers author the statement to any significant degree? And if so, what might they have added in or indeed taken out? The first general point to note about the statement is that it is a coherent narrative, the kind of narrative that requires very clear thinking, the ability to remember a complex, distressing set of circumstances, and to do so whilst under extreme pressure. I have known Craig since I went to school. We were stopped by our parents going out together. Not only was Derek Bentley very young at the time of the policeman's murder, but he had quite severe cognitive problems following a head injury that he had sustained as a child when his home was bombed during World War II in London. The injury was made worse throughout Derek Bentley's life because he suffered from epilepsy, probably as a result of his injuries. There are a few things you need to consider when looking at this statement. Firstly, notice that in the first part of the statement, Christopher Craig is referred to as Craig. He then becomes Chris Craig, just the one instance, and from then on he is Chris. You need to ask yourself whether this means it is possible that more than one person contributed to the production of the statement, given that Derek Bentley, or indeed any other person, is unlikely to have referred to his friend by 3 different names in the course of a statement of less than 600 words. The second thing to observe is how often the word door and policeman or police occur near to each other. This was first observed by Professor Malcolm Coulthard, who was the world's first forensic linguist, and who later gave evidence at Derek Bentley's appeal in London. Of course, Derek Bentley had been dead for over 40 years by the time of the appeal, so it had to be a posthumous appeal. At any rate, it was successful, and as a result, Derek Bentley was fully exonerated. Another thing you might notice in the statement is the phrase, brickwork entrance. This is a very curious phrase for a number of reasons. Firstly, it is a semi-abstract noun phrase. Secondly, if you look at the 2 words brickwork and entrance, you immediately notice that they are 9 and 8 letters long, respectively. This might not sound like much, but the average word length in the entire statement is 3.95 letters. Here we have 2 words together which average 8.5 letters in length. Now look at shelter arrangement. Here again we have 2 abstract words, respectively 7 and 11 letters, average word length 9 letters. Now, ordinarily this might not be important, but these 4 words, brickwork, entrance, shelter, arrangement, are hardly the kind of abstract vocabulary that a 19-year-old young man of limited mental abilities would be likely to use. These curiosities were also first noticed by Malcolm Coulthard back in 1994 in his seminal paper on forensic linguistics. Lastly, to mention another of his significant findings, do a little examination of the word then in the statement. Not only will you be surprised by how many times it occurs in the statement, but also its curious positioning after the subject of the sentence in a number of cases. For example, I then, Chris then, the policeman then, and so on. So, to conclude, when looking at the statement, remember the 2 questions we began with. First, how was the statement produced? Written, spoken, dictated, question and answer form, or some combination of all of those. Second, could it have been produced by more than one person? If you keep those 2 questions uppermost in your mind upon examining Derek Bentley's statement, you will not only learn a lot about that statement, you will also learn some very important things about forensic linguistics.